My heart was absolutely hammering against my ribs, thrumming a frantic beat against the cold metal of the changing room door. I pressed my back against it, hands shaking so badly I could barely keep my breath even. Outside, muffled shouts, then a shriek that cut through the cheap particle board like a knife. "Get out here, you bitch!" Her voice, that venomous, unhinged sound. I knew then with a sickening lurch that this wasn't just a bad day at Walmart. This was a goddamn nightmare, and I was trapped right in the middle of it. And to think it all started weeks ago over some motor oil. It was a pretty average Tuesday, just me trying to grab some groceries and maybe a new craft kit, minding my own business. I was in the canned goods aisle, humming along to whatever generic pop was on the store's speakers, when this woman barrels up to me. She was intense. Like full-on laser focus. "Excuse me," she barks, "can you tell me where the motor oil is?" Now I'm just Aubrey, a regular customer, not an employee, but I had this dumb lanyard around my neck left over from a volunteer gig and it must have looked official or something. "Oh, sorry," I said, trying to be polite, "I actually don't work here. I'm just shopping." "Big mistakes, huge," her eyes narrowed. "Don't you lie to me, you've got that badge on, now where's the motor oil? I haven't got all day." I tried again, slower. "Ma'am, seriously, I'm not an employee. I can't help you." But she wasn't listening. She just kept insisting, getting louder, her voice echoing a little too much in the quiet aisle. My annoyance quickly morphed into this weird, uncomfortable dread. She was relentless. I mean, who needs motor oil this badly? I just wanted her to leave me alone. So in a moment of pure panic, I did the only thing I could think of. I bolted. Yeah, I know, super mature. I ducked into a dense rack of clothes, praying she wouldn't see me, just wanting to disappear. But she was like a bloodhound. I heard her shouts getting closer, then the clothes rustling. Before I knew it, she was yanking at my arm, trying to pull me out. "There you are, you think you can hide from me. Now you will help me find that oils." I struggled, squirming free, my heart doing gymnastics in my chest. I got away, scrambling down the aisle, but she was right behind me on one of those motorized carts. I swear it was like a horror movie. I could hear the whirring of the wheels, her guttural shouts. Then bam, a searing pain shot through my foot. She'd driven right over it with the cart. I screamed, a raw, primal sound, collapsing against a shelf. My foot throbbed, agony blooming through my ankle. But she didn't care. She was still yelling, "Get me the motor oil," right in my face, her eyes wild. It was terrifying. That's when an actual Walmart employee, a young guy who looked completely overwhelmed, finally intervened. He tried to reason with her, telling her to back off, but Karen wasn't having it. She just turned her fury on him, screaming about lazy employees and how she was going to have his job. It was a full-blown spectacle, and I was just trying not to cry, my foot throbbing. Thankfully, a true hero emerged. A woman, probably a mom with 2 kids in her cart, had seen the whole thing. She wheeled right up to Karen, calm as you please, but with a gaze that could curdle milk. "You need to stop this," she said, her voice low and firm. "You just ran over that poor girl's foot and you're harassing an employee. This is completely unacceptable." The manager, alerted by the commotion, arrived then and didn't hesitate. Karen was told to leave immediately and that she was banned from the store. My hero mom even made sure they got my information for an incident report. I just sat there shaking, relieved but so shaken. I thought that was the end of it. The store manager apologized profusely, gave me some ice for my foot, and helped me out to my car. I pressed charges, filed a report, and tried to forget about the whole twisted encounter. But the story doesn't end there, and not even close. A few weeks later, I was back at that same Walmart because convenience, right? I was in the beauty aisle just browsing nail polish when I felt that prickle on the back of my neck, that sensation of being watched. I glanced up and my blood ran cold. There she was, Karen. She looked different, her hair was styled differently, and she had on heavier makeup like she was trying for a disguise. And she wasn't alone. Another woman, equally severe looking, was with her. They were a few aisles away, trying to pretend they weren't staring, but their eyes were locked on me. My heart immediately started to race. This wasn't some random encounter, this was targeted. I quickly turned my cart around and headed for the toy aisle, hoping to lose them in the crowds of kids. But no. Every time I looked over my shoulder, there they were, trailing me. It was like a nightmare Stalker movie. Panic started to set in. I couldn't just leave my cart. I didn't want to make a scene. I just wanted them to disappear. I ducked into the craft aisle, then saw the changing rooms nearby. A moment of desperate logic. If I could just get in there, maybe I could call someone, find an employee. Bad moves, really bad moves. I practically dove into the closest changing room, slamming the door shut, fumbling for my phone. Before I could even dial, the banging started. Not just knocking, but full-on pounding, shaking the door in its frame. "We know you're in there," Karen shrieked, her voice distorted by rage. "You can't hide from us." Then the doorknob rattled violently. And the next thing I knew, the flimsy lock splintered, the door burst open, and Karen and her accomplice were there, their faces contorted in pure malice. They grabbed me, and tried to drag me out of the changing room. I screamed, a real terrified scream. I fought, clawing, kicking, trying to pull away from their grip. It was a terrifying, chaotic blur. Luckily, employees, alerted by my scream, came rushing over. It took several of them to separate us. Karen, even as they pulled her away, was still trying to lunge at me, shouting incoherent threats. Her accomplice was yelling too, completely unhinged. The police were called again. This time there was no denying the harassment, the assault. It was all caught on store cameras. I pressed charges against both of them. They were arrested right there in the store, Karen still screaming insults as they led her away. Turns out they were charged with assault, harassment, and breaking and entering for the changing room. It was a long, draining process, but seeing them finally held accountable was a massive relief. Honestly, it still gives me chills. I'm glad I'm past it now, trying to focus on good things, but I'll never look at a Walmart, or a lanyard for that matter, the same way again. The whole thing taught me a brutal lesson. Sometimes people are just unhinged, and no amount of polite explanation will fix that. If someone is truly harassing you, don't try to be nice, don't try to hide. Scream, run, get help, immediately. Don't let yourself get dragged into their madness. Stay safe out there, guys, and seriously watch your backs.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
The back door of Stevie's beat-up yellow sedan flew open with a frantic squeak. Before I could even register what was happening, a woman, eyes wide with panic, face streaked with tears, clambered in. She barely slammed the door shut before gasping, "Hospital. Please, for God's sake, drive. My granddaughter, premature labor." My mind went completely blank for a second. Wait, what? This wasn't a taxi. This was Stevie Boy's ancient ex-company car, a bright yellow beast that looked like it should be a taxi, sure, but it clearly had no meter, no company logo, no damn sign on the roof. I was just heading to the supermarket, fridge almost empty after Stevie took off for an island-hopping trip, leaving me with his unmistakable ride. But the sheer terror in her eyes, the raw desperation etched on her face, there was absolutely no time for explanations, no moment for me to awkwardly say, actually, ma'am, I don't work here." My third-year nursing student brain just kicked into overdrive. Overriding my polite confusion, this was an emergency. I swallowed, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. "Okay, ma'am, which hospital?" I knew the capital pretty well, thankfully. My foot was already on the gas, merging into the morning traffic. "The central one," she choked out, fumbling with her phone, her hands shaking so much she nearly dropped it. "Oh God, she's only 16, so young. They called from the school," she collapsed. Her story tumbled out in frantic, broken sentences. A difficult pregnancy, a scared young girl, and now this. Her voice trembled, a choked sob escaping her lips. "I just need to get there, be with her." The car, usually a lumbering old thing, felt like it was flying. I pushed it, carefully but firmly, through the busy early 2000s city streets. Every red light felt like an eternity, every slow driver a personal affront. I kept glancing at her in the rearview mirror, trying to offer a calming presence even as my own heart pounded against my ribs. "It's gonna be okay," I said, or rather hoped through gritted teeth. "We'll get you there. Fast." We screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance just under 20 minutes later. Luckily, working part-time as an aide sometimes, the security guard, old George, knew my face. "Ethan, what's going on?" "No time, George," I yelled as the woman practically tumbled out, still thanking me profusely, her gratitude almost overwhelming. She was fumbling in her purse, trying to press some crumpled bills into my hand. No, please," I insisted, waving her off. I didn't want a single cent. Her granddaughter was all that mattered. "Just if everything turns out all right," I added, a half-joke, half-earnest plea, "send me a slice of cake." Seriously, it was a stupid thing to say, but I wanted to make sure she felt no obligation, just pure relief. I figured that was the end of it, maybe a weird, intense story to tell Stevie Boy when he got back from island hopping, but a couple of days later, the phone rang. It was Stevie. "Dude, you're not gonna believe this," he said, sounding a mix of baffled and amused. "The cops just called about my car." Turns out the woman's husband was a police officer. When his frantic wife told him a yellow taxi had rushed her to the hospital in her moment of need, he put out a call. With the car's distinctive color and some good old-fashioned police work, license plate probably, they'd tracked down Stevie Boy, the registered owner. I ended up having to go down to the station, not in trouble, mind you, but they wanted to clarify what had happened. That's where I met the woman again, this time with her husband, a big, imposing guy who looked surprisingly sheepish as he shook my hand. "Ethan, thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved her a lot of worry." "You saved us a lot of worry, we're indebted." And then the cake arrived, a massive, beautiful chocolate cake delivered right to our apartment. It was delicious, but more than that, it was a gesture, a symbol. It was a reminder of what you do when someone's in trouble, even if they've completely mistaken you for someone else. The granddaughter, I later heard, had a healthy baby girl. She spent a little time in the NICU, but she was strong, a little fighter. A new life started under the most stressful circumstances, and I, a random dude in a yellow car, had played a small, unexpected part in making sure her grandma got there on time. Stevie and I eventually told the story on one of those random late-night college radio shows we used to mess around with, and it kinda became our legend. The yellow car, the panicked grandma, the emergency dash, and the best damn thank you cake ever. It's funny how sometimes not correcting someone can lead to the biggest impact.
"Officer, thank God, she's gonna stab him with her keys." The voice cut through the thick haze of cheap party liquor and my own self-satisfied grin. One minute, I was stumbling out of a costume party, feeling like the coolest, most authoritative dude in a shiny police uniform. The next, I was being hailed as a genuine law enforcer, tasked with preventing what sounded like a felony-level domestic dispute. And the kicker, I was absolutely, undeniably wasted. My high-quality police costume, bought for a laugh, had just landed me in the middle of actual street drama, and my brain, soaked in rum and coke, decided, yep, I can handle this. Let's rewind a bit. I'm Ethan, and usually my tales for r/IDontWorkHereLady involve mistaken identity with retail employees, not impersonating law enforcement while blackout drunk. But tonight was special. It all started innocently enough. Costume party. Great excuse to blow off some steam. I'd gone all out, not just a cheap plastic badge, but a proper, fairly authentic-looking cop uniform. I mean, who doesn't want to feel like a bit of a badass for a night, right? Marching around in that crisp blue, a fake badge gleaming, even an empty holster on my hip. It was a power trip, a fun bit of dress-up. Problem was, I leaned into the fun part a little too hard. The open bar was a trap, and by the time midnight rolled around, I was less officer on duty and more officer falling duty. My words were getting slurry, my legs felt like jello, and my internal monologue had devolved into a repetitive loop of "I'm so cool, I'm so cool." Then came the bystander, a frantic guy practically dragging me towards the alley. "Please, officer," he repeated, pointing. "They're really going at it." I swayed, trying to focus my eyes. Sure enough, a man and a woman were locked in some kind of screaming match near a parked car, and the woman had a set of keys clutched like a shiv. My blurry mind, fueled by alcohol and a sudden, misguided sense of heroism, thought, this is my moment. This is what good fake cops do. I stumbled forward, trying to project authority which probably looked more like a marionette with cut strings. Hey, you two," I slurred, holding up a hand that felt oddly heavy. "What's going on here? Let's just calm down, yeah." The woman, eyes blazing, spun towards me, keys still raised. "Stay out of this, pig," she spat, and for a second my drunken brain actually registered the insult like me, a pig. But then the delusion kicked back in. No, she must just be stressed. My job was to defuse. "Look," I tried, channeling every cop show I'd ever seen, "this isn't worth it. You guys look like you need a hug." Silence. Even the bystander looked confused. The couple just stared at me, mid-scream, mouths agape. The woman actually lowered her keys, but only to look at them, then back at me, as if trying to figure out if I was an alien cop. A hug, the man finally managed, looking bewildered. Yeah, I nodded emphatically, probably swaying a bit too much. A big, friendly hug, let's just hug it out. All better. Hugs solve everything. In my mind, this was brilliant, innovative policing. In reality, I was probably the most absurd sight on that street. The woman scoffed, but a tiny bit of the venom seemed to drain from her. "I'm not hugging him," she declared, but her voice lacked the previous fury. "Oh, come on," I persisted, my drunken resolve hardening. "You totally need a hug, you both do. Come on, big hug." I actually took a clumsy step towards them, arms vaguely outstretched like a wobbly, blue-clad scarecrow. The growing crowd of onlookers was starting to whisper, and I swear I heard someone stifle a laugh. Somehow, through sheer, drunken persistence, or perhaps the sheer surrealism of the situation, the woman hesitated. Maybe she just wanted to get rid of the insane, slurring cop. I don't know. But after another minute of me gently, repeatedly urging them, "Just a little hug, guys, come on, you know you want to," she actually leaned in, and the man, looking equally baffled, reciprocated. It was a stiff, awkward, deeply uncomfortable hug, witnessed by a small, stunned audience. As quickly as it began, it ended. The woman pulled away, gave me a look that was 50% confusion and 50% disgust, and stalked off. The man just shook his head, mumbled something incomprehensible, and disappeared into a nearby building. I stood there swaying, feeling a strange mix of accomplishment and utter bewilderment. Had I just solved a domestic dispute with a hug? My fuzzy brain decided yes. I was a hero. I was also incredibly embarrassed. What the hell just happened? I eventually stumbled my way home, the hero feeling replaced by a vague sense of unease. The next day, the entire incident was a hazy, fragmented memory. Did I really make two people hug? Surely not. My mind dismissed it as a drunken dream. A week later, I was having coffee with my buddy Mark, who'd also been at the party. He'd gone home early, supposedly. "Dude," he started, a weird look on his face, "you are never gonna believe what I saw last Saturday." My stomach dropped. Oh God, what did I do? He burst out laughing. "You were drunk on the job, Ethan, like unbelievably hammered." I denied it, of course. "What job? I was at a costume party." Then he started recounting. The bystander, the screaming couple, the keys, and me, in full uniform, swaying like a drunken oak, demanding that a couple on the brink of violence hug it out. He described the entire, humiliating, absurd spectacle down to my wobbly, outstretched arms and the couple's utterly bewildered expressions as they were pressured into the most unwilling embrace in human history. He confirmed the stares, the whispers, the sheer disbelief. We laughed until we cried that day. But the lesson, delivered by my sober friend recounting my drunken heroism, hit me hard. Never, ever, under any circumstances, get blackout drunk while dressed as someone it's illegal to impersonate. Especially if you think you're a natural-born conflict negotiator. So yeah, next time you see someone in a uniform, maybe make sure they're actually on duty. Because sometimes the person in the cop costume is just Ethan, fueled by bad decisions and a shocking amount of rum, trying to make people hug. Stay safe out there, Reddit, and for the love of God, don't drink and pretend to be law enforcement.
This next one, yeah, it's a good one too.